Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
Kabrani who said we are winning the seats in the mining areas. So they decided to go and import foreigners. No one know about no man can't jump say munko in renumu. Na munko to go do or say munko so no na munko to. Na mo refi mu hwana the whole year. In so I a problem da. Enya one man na started. Eye obi na opese anka omo ye nanka ye di speed. Nanka ya court nanka ya stop Galamsey for nanka ya lose your seat. Yes stop you omo na. Yes stop you omo china. Na oma ko form TV for na ko. Na omo kro for ka ena Galamsey na Galamsey yetu no Accra. In so no Accra. Omo mbra kuma say me demonstration and come be steady.
Martin said, NDC for Chishambophobia, Saboteur, Geshem, Betra, Mining, Etipophobia at Yesi, Papaso, or NDC for Nabayasano. Anti our hand, na Sagashan or Count, Nasa Kotua NDC, Abasmenta Geshema, Missebe, Baby Benny, Yamaha, and our Wallace, Abachi Kwafoha, Okabema, Anam Gesheti, and Yamiatum, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, or the name Wasanin this year, or the Akari campaign team home. Mining communities to make us up. Me did say, yeah, dear no bano ana. Yeah, dear no bano ana. So boy, apa papa.
Annie, in this fight against Galamsey, the duplicity, the irresponsibility and the arrogance of the NPP is unmatched. Yet they have failed at the fight against Galamsey. And if you permit me, I'll give you 3 reasons why I tell you that the NPP, having failed at the fight against Galamsey, would not even succumb to lessons, but will still, go ahead and portray arrogance and portray irresponsibility of the higher standards. And to add that, the NPP are not just enablers of Galamsey, they have become complicit in the act. And by complicit, I mean they are hands deep and neck deep in the Galamsey menace. Annie, the president who says that he has put his job on the line, supposedly, is the chief saboteur against the fight on Galamsey. And my reason is that, Annie, do you remember that after the Professor Frimpong Boateng committee submitted the report to the office of the president sat on the said report for 2 solid years. Annie, if the report doesn't implicate the president, if the said report doesn't show that the president and his courts and its appointees are benefiting from Galamsey at the expense of children, at the expense of pregnant women, I am sure that the president would have forwarded the said report to, for example, the office of the special prosecutor. But because the president knows that, of course, he is neck deep, hands deep in Galamsey, and did not intend to put his presidency on the line, he just couldn't be bothered. And on that grounds, I say that the NPP are complicit and they have shown irresponsibility. Now you see, on the grounds, again, of irresponsibility, have you ever heard any member of the NPP, from the president to the least person, take responsibility for anything in this country? Absolutely no. Annie, the NPP would blame the dollar. The NPP will blame the current state of the economy and the dollar depreciation on Russia-Ukraine war. They will blame our presence at the IMF on everybody and anything but their own reckless expenditure and the mismanagement of the economy. I have never seen anybody take any responsibility. And for me, it settles with leadership. Now, you see, the utterances of some key members of the NPP even worsens the plight of Ghanaians. You have polluted our waters for the benefit of your party. In that very famous video, Annie,
which they say the pollution of water didn't start today.
Annie,
and we all know.
Annie, Annie, admittedly, but you also agree with me. Show the videos and let's see. The water, the destruction of the waters and the lands are at unprecedented levels, to the extent that there are reports that by 2020, Ghana would have to import water. You and I cannot afford to import water. But of course, the president who bathes in the sky can import water, because he has given $10 million ambulance contract to his daughters. And so they have what it takes to actually import water, when the ordinary Ghanaian youth on the street cannot afford a 3-square meal. And so, Annie, for me, it should be enough for you to actually spoil our waters. But to go ahead and throw insults in the face of Ghanaians and not take responsibility as leadership. And on this, I am calling out President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. They don't want us to hold them accountable for anything. But when it is praise singing, they want us to sing their praise. And in the first video that you played, did you hear the NPP member of parliament for Ifiduasi Sokori saying that the NDC imported the Galamseyers? And in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report, the names that were mentioned, the former MP for Manson Panta, Joseph Albert Kwam, did the NDC import him? Annie, did the NPP import the director of operations at the presidency, Mr. Lord Kome? Annie, again I ask, did the NDC import Mr. Charles Tego? All the names that were mentioned as neck deep and hand deep in Galamsey, today we are being told by the NPP that it is the NDC who imported these people. And in that famous video, didn't we all hear and see that they said, you asked us, Prof, to go and look for a viable concession to mine, because party here Sika. And that is where I say that sometimes the NPP thinks itself more human than any Ghanaian. Party here Sika, so you will cause these levels of distraction. Nobody is saying that Galamsey started today. And the party here Sika, and so you put the life of unborn children at risk. And today we are here and you served us that there is increments in tariffs. The same water that has been polluted, there is increments. And you agree with me that the increment may possibly...
That's because there's, production cost, obviously, has gone up.
And you've heard from the production cost, the dirtier the water, the higher the cost of production. Right. And so you're actually buttressing my point that you can't actually go and mine and cause such wreck and havoc. And then the ordinary Ghanaian would be burdened with tariff increment. Who knows? Maybe if the destruction costs were not at such unprecedented levels, the rate of increment, though would increase, wouldn't have been this high. And then so you see, in that very video, we also saw and heard some names like Mr. John Bwedu, all talking in that, names were mentioned in that video that they needed money for the party. And they didn't need money for the development of the country. They needed money for their campaigns. They needed money for other political interests and not in the interest of Ghanaians. And sometime back in 2022, if I'm right, the then minister for local government and rural development, Haji Ali Mahama, said that municipal and district chief executives who are appointees of the NPP government are neck deep in Galamsey. And then if they don't desist from it, she would publish their names. And those names were never published. And so you see, It is an unfair comment for anybody to say that, well, there was Galamsey and the NDC, and there's still Galamsey and the NPP, so we shouldn't talk. Please, viewers, let us know, the NPP and the NDC are not the same. The NPP and the NDC are not the same. Show the videos. Show the health of the water and in the health of the lands that we left for the good people of Ghana. And then show the health of the water and the health of the land that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, in the name of party here, Sika, would leave for the good people of Ghana. And in their case, they are putting very vulnerable demographics of our population at stake. I mean children, I mean pregnant women. And then you know what is more hurting? When Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, they poison our water and they poison our food. And then we get all the kidney diseases and go to Kolebu. It is either the renal unit is non-functioning or people can simply not afford to treat themselves of these diseases. And this is wickedness. And you tell us that it is the NDC who imported these people. I mean, do you know that, for example, if there is a booty, the NPP will say that, well, they are the only citizens, as we saw in the video. When the Galamsey booty was being cooked, it was party here, Sika. Now, when the Galamsey problem is caused, then they'll say that it's a national problem. Annie, did President Akufo-Addo give every Ghanaian $10 million contracts as ambulance scandal? No. Annie, did President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo listen to us when we were telling him that you need not dig the world's most expensive hole with $58 million? Annie, the NPP has failed at absolutely everything. And I'll show you. So you see, as far back as 30th September 2022, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources issued a press release cautioning Akonta mining to desist from mining in the Tanonimri Forest Reserve. Fast forward to the Bishop Conference in 2023, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at that Bishop's Conference told the clergy that Akonta mining is not involved in any Galamsey. Jesus Christ, and that is ridiculous. And then you turn around and take the same clergy to the Galamsey site to pray for the site. Annie, I'm not sure that anybody at this table believes in prayer.
But those who want to pray, were they on Akonta mining site?
What I'm saying is that
they just went to Galamsey sites to pray.
What I'm saying is that you stand in front of them and tell them that Akonta mining is not mining in the forest. The Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources says that Akonta mining is mining in the forest. And then you take the clergy to go and pray at the Galamsey sites, right? Fast forward, you are their Bishop's Conference, and you are telling them that Akonta mining is not mining in any forest reserve. If I were a bishop, the levels of destruction I saw, we will call out the president. That president, you need to sit up because the life of every Ghanaian, including unborn children, are at risk. But so you see, what the NPP sought to do was just the fact that they wanted to change the hands that does the Galamsey. Admittedly, at the NDC there was Galamsey. Now the actors are the NPP. See, we cannot trust the Galamsey kingpins to fight Galamsey. How can you say that President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia and the NPP are neck deep in Galamsey and so they should fight themselves?
What I've also noticed is that they say they have spotted some NDC members partaking in Galamsey activities in some of the Galamsey areas. Well, I haven't seen any official document covering that, but that's what I've heard. I've seen some pictures of persons being identified as parliamentary candidates for NDC in so and so areas, all partaking in Galamsey or seen at Galamsey sites.
Annie, do you know President John Dramani Mahama to be an electrical engineer? I'm not sure he is. Dumso happened under President Rawlings. Dumso happened under President Kufuor. Dumso happened under the late Prof. Mills. Dumso happened under President John Dramani Mahama. Don't you remember? President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, then candidate Akufo-Addo, calling out President John Dramani Mahama to fix it. And what we are saying is that it stops with leadership. Annie, who has actually tied the hands of the NPP? from arresting the so-called NDC people that they said are neck deep in Galamsey. And like I told you, it is because the NPP is complicit. See, they are the kingpins of Galamsey. They are not coming to the fight with clean hands. And so you cannot trust them. And so to answer your question, who is stopping the president from fighting Galamsey? It starts with leadership, nothing more and nothing less. And what can the ordinary Ghanaian do about the Cecilia Dapa cash matter, for example? What can the ordinary Ghanaian do about the president giving contracts to his daughters? The only thing the ordinary Ghanaian can do is to call out the president to act. And so for a president who refuses to act and puts our lives at risk, what we can do is that we will not give that president a third term in the name of giving President Dr. Bawumia a first term. It wouldn't happen. And let me say that, Annie, if the good people of Ghana survive the distraction caused by Galamsey under the NPP, where the key members of the NPP have been fingered, right? You remember Charles Biziu in the famous Tiger PI, where, see, we saw him counting Galamsey money. Right? So, Annie,
you can't tell if that was Galamsey.
Annie, let me tell. What I'm saying is that we will not forgive Dr. Bawumia if he sits at the president and says that I have bold solutions, but I will keep that bold solutions like President Akufo-Addo kept Professor Boateng's report until after 7th January when I'm sworn in as president. God forbid a Bawumia presidency. We should keep having deformed children. We should keep drinking dirty water.